Do you even hear yourself, Mama? Since we were children, you have given her everything and left me with nothing. Now you want me to sacrifice my name, my future, my life, for what? So that she can walk free while I bear the shame? The night Ayoka was born, the sky wept. Thick, heavy raindrops pounded the rusted rooftops of Makoko, the floating slum in Lagos. It was as if the heavens knew what kind of life she would live. 2 years later, her sister Sewa came into the world on a bright, golden afternoon. From the moment Sewa took her first breath, the difference was clear. Sewa was beauty itself. By the time she was 5, she was the pride of the community, the girl who could recite long Yoruba proverbs without stumbling, whose laughter made the neighbors smile. Ayoka, on the other hand, was Ayoka. Dark-skinned with stubborn, unyielding features that mirrored their late fathers, she lacked the delicate grace that made Sewa beloved. She was a quiet child who learned early that no matter how much she tried, she would never be enough in their mother's eyes. Mama Tinu favored Sewa so openly that it was a wound Ayoka carried in her chest like a piece of broken glass. Sewa, my sunshine, come and eat this fish. You need strength for school, Mama Tinu would say, placing the largest portion on her youngest daughter's plate. Ayoka, sitting on the cold floor with her legs folded beneath her, would receive the smallest piece, the tail, the scraps, sometimes nothing at all. Ayoka, you are strong. You don't need too much food. Strength, that was all her mother ever saw in her. Never hungry, never pain, never longing. At school, Sewa shone like a polished diamond. She was the one chosen to lead cultural dances, the one whose school fees were always paid first, the one who got new shoes, while Ayoka patched hers with thread and glue. The resentment that grew in Ayoka's heart was not loud. It did not explode like firecrackers, did not lash out in anger. It was quiet, a slow, creeping shadow that wrapped itself around her soul. But life has a way of shifting the ground beneath our feet, and the day came when everything changed. It was a sickness. Sewa had just turned 16. Her beauty ripened into something that made even the wealthier boys from the mainland notice her. One of them, a smooth-talking university student named Femi, had promised her heaven and earth. But heaven turned out to be a lie. By the time Sewa realized she was pregnant, Femi was gone, like wind through open fingers. Mama Tinu wept, but even as she cried, she did not raise her hand to strike Sewa. She did not hurl insults at her. Instead, she rocked her favorite daughter in her arms, whispering, "Don't worry, my sunshine. We will find a way." Ayoka, now 18, watched it all in silence. That night, she sat outside their wooden shack, staring at the dark water of the lagoon. The same mother who had never once defended her, who had never called her beautiful, was now wrapping Sewa in love despite her mistake. The injustice of it all burned inside Ayoka like a slow fire. One evening, as Ayoka was washing clothes outside, her mother approached her with a strange softness in her eyes. "Ayoka, my strong one, I need to ask you for something." It was the first time she had ever heard those words from her mother's lips. She turned, wiping her wet hands on her wrapper. "What is it?" Mama Tinu sighed. You know how people talk. If Sewa gives birth in this house, they will shame us. I was thinking..." She hesitated. "I was thinking that maybe you could say the baby is yours." For a moment, the world stood still. "What?" Ayoka whispered, her voice barely audible. Mama Tinu swallowed hard. "You are strong. You can handle it. If you say the child is yours, no one will insult Sewa. She can go back to school, get her life back." Ayoka stared at her mother, searching her face to some sign that it was a cruel joke. But Mama Tinu was serious. She had never cared about Ayoka's reputation, never protected her from shame, and now she wanted Ayoka to carry a burden that wasn't hers, to bear a stigma that would follow her for the rest of her life. Her fingers trembled. She clenched them into fists. Why should I do that? She asked, her voice shaking. Mama Tinu's expression hardened. Because I am your mother and I am asking you for a favor. A favor? After years of neglect, years of pain, years of being invisible, this was the first thing her mother ever truly asked of her. Ayoka felt something break inside her. She looked at her mother, then at Sewa, who sat inside, belly swollen with a child, face turned away in shame. The silence between them stretched, thick and suffocating. Ayoka's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the woman who had never once stood up for her. A favor. That was all she was to her mother. A tool to be used when it was convenient. Something inside her snapped. No. Mama Tinu's eyes widened. What did you say? Ayoka's fist trembled at her sides, but her voice was steady. I said no. I will not carry Sewa's shame for her. She had expected her mother to shout, to curse her, to call her ungrateful. Instead, Mama Tinu's face twisted with something even uglier than anger. Disappointment. You are wicked, Ayoka. Your sister has done nothing but love you, and this is how you repay her? Ayoka let out a hollow laugh. The sound bitter. Love? Do you even hear yourself, Mama? Since we were children, you have given her everything and left me with nothing. Now you want me to sacrifice my name, my future, my life, for what? So that she can walk free while I bear the shame? Mama Tinu's lips pressed together. Sewa has a future. She is beautiful, smart. She has a chance at a good life. Who will marry her if she is known as a girl with a child? But you? She paused. You are strong. You can survive it. That was it. That was the moment Ayuka realized something. Her mother had never loved her. Not even once. Her chest felt like it was caving in, but she refused to let herself break. Not in front of them. Not in front of the woman who had never chosen her, and the sister who had never cared enough to notice. She took a deep breath. I will not do it. Mama Tinu turned away, shaking her head. Then you are no daughter of mine. The words were like a knife, but Ayoka only nodded. I was never truly your daughter to begin with. She left the house that night. She walked through the narrow paths of Makoko, past the shacks and wooden houses built on stilts above the dark, polluted water. She had no plan, no destination, only the weight of everything she had ever endured pressing down on her shoulders. But she did not cry. She had wasted too many years wanting love that would never come. That night, she slept in an unfinished building near the main road. The air was thick with the smell of burning wood and the distant sound of car horns from the city. She thought of her life, of the years she had spent longing for her mother's approval, and then she thought of something else. What if she built her own life? What if she stopped waiting to be chosen and chose herself instead? Months passed. At first, it was difficult. She worked as a cleaner in a small roadside restaurant, sweeping floors and washing dishes from dawn till dusk. The pay was barely enough to survive, but she kept pushing. She refused to return home. She refused to be nothing. And then, one day, an opportunity came. The restaurant's owner, an elderly woman named Mama Bose, noticed her determination. She saw how Ayoka never complained, how she worked harder than anyone else. You are different, my child, Mama Bose told her one evening. I want to help you. Would you like to learn how to run a business? It was the first time in her life someone had offered her more than scraps. Ayoka grabbed the opportunity with both hands. She learned everything: how to manage money, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to cook the meals that customers loved. By the time she turned 22, she had saved enough to open her own small food store. It wasn't much, just a tiny space near the busy market, but it was hers. 2 years later, the people of Makoko heard the news. Sewa was struggling. Her beauty, the thing that had once made her untouchable, had faded under the weight of life's hardships. She had dropped out of school, unable to balance motherhood and education. The men who once pursued her no longer came around. And Mama Tinu, she was aging, her once strong body now weak. Without Ayoka's help, there was no one to help with the chores. One evening, as Ayoka finished closing her store, a familiar voice called her name. She turned. Sewa stood there, holding a small child, her son. Ayoka's breath caught in her throat. The boy looked just like her when she was little. Dark-skinned, stubborn features. Not like Sewa, not like their mother's beloved daughter. Sewa's eyes were filled with shame. Ayoka, her voice was barely above a whisper. I have nowhere else to go. Ayoka said nothing. She thought of the past, of all the nights she had cried herself to sleep while Sewa lived a life of privilege, of all the moments when she had wished just once to be seen. And now, here they were. The power was in her hands. She could turn her back, just as they had once done to her. She could walk away and never look back. But then she looked at the boy in Sewa's arms, a child who had done nothing wrong, a child who, if she walked away now, would suffer just as she had suffered. Ayoka let out a slow breath. Then without a word, she reached out and took the little boy from Sewa's arms. She did not do it for her mother. She did not do it for Sewa. She did it for herself because she refused to let bitterness define her story. And as she stood there, holding her nephew close, she realized something. She was not just strong, she was free. Please like and share, subscribe for more stories.